I would like to dedicate this presentation in the loving memory of Stelios and Antula. They were two Greeks, friends of ours, and Mr. Stelios taught me when I was 10 years old that for every service I offer, I should charge something. So I was going and doing his grocery shopping and buying him cigarettes and tobacco. And he told me, keep the change because this is your the fee for your service. So I would like to dedicate a presentation to them. Today I'm going to talk about winning in the long run, the state of blockchain and AI. I have to mention I'm not a developer. My brother is a developer, so I understand the basis of development. I'm a data scientist, so I flirt a bit with programming every now and then. But most of all, what I'm going to share today is to motivate you so that you go home and you do your own research and maybe you embrace a career or you start your own startup in the field. A bit about myself. I've done some talks and I've been to 45 countries in the past year. I wanted to understand how communities perceive blockchain and AI. So I've done Europe and Asia and Middle East. And among the projects that I currently work with, so I have a podcast. It's called the Crypto Law Podcast. I'm an advisor for Join Chat, King Silver, which is a decentralized decentralized sort of republic. Join Chat builds communities for developers. Caramel.io, this is very interesting. I'm going to talk about this project in the next slide. Bit Depository and my own project with my business partners, iMedis, which is a blockchain and AI health tech company. Regarding Caramel, it's important. I think this is the best project to talk about here because it's a platform that teaches people how to code in any kind of language. And most importantly, they have what we call tweak and learn. So learners start with a real world product and they learn by tweaking the product, challenge by challenge. Then they build reputation. That means every completed challenge earns learners experiences, points and badges that they can proudly showcase. And there's a go-to market. Every step on the learning experience, the product can be published online for the whole world to see. This is important because as opposed to just learning traditional courses, you also get to code in real life and experience it. Now, regarding Europe early stage funding. This is important. You can find this report on tech.eu. It's free, so you can download it and go through it. I've just used a couple of information from the report in my slides. It's important to see that Europe is really evolving in terms of funding and opportunities for each of you. So as opposed to, let's say, Q1 2015 to Q2 2018, we can clearly see that there's an evolution in funding. Early stage funding. Just have a look in the left side with the gradient scale, and you'll understand in the next slide why this is important. So darker colors means industries where there's a lot of money and a lot of funding. Lighter colors means less funding. Okay, so that means in Europe right now, the most interesting industries where there's a lot of funding in terms of like close to 2.8 billion, it's fintech and medtech. Okay, and then we have analytics, mobility, content, travel tech, developer tools, and so on. This is to give you an idea. If you want to build your own startup, or if you're a freelancer, or you want to build a career, which kind of companies and industries to target. And among average investment by industry category, top 10 fields. So we have developer tools, we have gaming, mobility, security, robotics, agri-tech, ed-tech, medtech, semiconductors, and fintech. Now, in terms of data and blockchain, I like to think of data as digital DNA because we consume a lot of data on a daily basis, but we also produce a lot of data through our smartphones, through our interactions, online, offline. And it's important to understand that data is the fuel for all the emerging technologies, for blockchain, for AI, for augmented reality, for the upcoming technologies. In terms of, so now I'm gonna move towards blockchain, which is the first important topic of this presentation. How many of you are familiar with blockchain? Thank you. So blockchain as a technology at its core, in terms of cryptography, is not really new. There's proof that in the early 90s, like 92, 93, developers were already talking about digital money and systems, decentralized systems. The only problem is it was very fragmented. So before PayPal, there was an experiment. I forgot the name of it, but I can share later the article in the app for the conference. They created a first, let's say, the first digital money, but it didn't really catch on to people because they really loved their MasterCard and Visas. And after that, for some reason, PayPal started becoming popular. And it took about 10 more years before Bitcoin appeared. And it coincided with the financial crisis, which was good marketing, right? So some of the things that you'll identify blockchain with is a solution against double spending. We know the ghost of blockchain, which is Satoshi Nakamoto. Cryptocurrencies, which I believe are the transcribed value of the technologies that we're building and using, distributed ledger, smart contracts, consensus mechanisms, cryptography, programming, digital currency, and the new internet. In terms of consensus mechanisms, there are a couple of them. I'm pretty sure most of us are familiar with proof of work, right? So you generate computing power and you solve equations, and this rewards you. This is the principle behind Bitcoin. Then we have proof of stake, where you stake an amount of coins, and this gives the network mobility. And this is the case, for example, with Ethereum moving to proof of stake. Then we have, for example, Ripple. If you're familiar with Ripple, Ripple uses interledger. And all other types of mechanisms. It's all about being really creative, and also you'll see later on the types of programming languages that we use for every kind of blockchain solution. I will share the slide after the presentation. I don't want to insist on it, but you'll have access to it right after the coffee break. So one of the first languages programming languages used in blockchain is JavaScript, right? It's used in Hyperledger Fabric, in Ethereum, Raiden Network, Neo, Lighting apps. Amongst the pros and cons, the pros are because it's easy to use, right? It's object-oriented, prototype-based, functional programming, and uses frameworks. The downside is it's dynamic and requires TypeScript to solve weaknesses. The second one is C#, right? C# is used in IOTA and Neo, for example. And one of the cons, one of the biggest weaknesses is the fact that it's a weak Linux support because it's mostly Windows. But among the pluses is it's object-oriented, strongly typed, easy to learn, very popular, and it has support for .NET. The other one that is also widely used is C++. And it's used in Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ripple, Stellar, EOS, Monero, Quantum, CPP, Ethereum, and NEM. NEM is moving from Java. They're moving to C++. Don't ask me why. Among the pros, okay, similarity to C, high speed, independent, multi-platform, strongly static typed, but it has a lot of downsides, which is it's difficult to debug. It's complex, it has code redundancy. It doesn't support garbage collection, which is important when you're building a blockchain, and it's not easy to learn. Another one that is commonly used is Python. And Python is used in Ethereum with PyEthereum, in Steemit, Steam Python, Hyperledger Fabric for smart contracts, Neo, And among the pluses is the fact that it's very easy to learn, and you have all these pre-made libraries and frameworks, and it's fast. The downside is it's poorly documented, and you have poor context, and it's mostly a server language. Then you have Golang, which is the fifth one. Golang is used in Hyperledger Fabric, Ethereum, GoChain, Loom Networks, and others. Among the super positives about this language is the fact that it has memory safety, garbage collection, it's strongly typed and super fast, and also scalable and easy to develop once you acquire the skill. The downside is it has a very small community. It's hard to learn because it's complex. It's a new language and has a really ugly syntax and has few libraries and packages. Solidity is used just for Ethereum. So on the good side is the fact that it's very easy to learn. It's statically typed and the community is growing fast, mainly because Vitalik is the heart of the community. The problem is it's not universal, so it can be used only in the Ethereum environment, and it's vulnerable to critical mistakes. And the problem we see, especially when we have smart contracts developed on Ethereum, is because they are on-chain, if you have a bug, you can't really fix it, so you have to create a new smart contract. You can't just take it off-chain, fix it, and put it back up. It doesn't work like that. Other languages include Java and Rust. I've put it together. I'm sorry. So NEM uses Java, but they're moving to C++. IOTA uses Java. Ethereum uses Java. IBM blockchain uses Java. Neo and Hyperledger contracts use Java. Rust is used in Parity, Ethereum Classic, and Rust Exonum framework. I'm not going to talk about the pluses and minuses. I just wanted to mention it in case we have Java lovers among us. Blockchain as an industry has ranked #1 on Upwork, if you're familiar with the freelance marketplace, for 4 quarters in a row. It is also one of the fastest growing skills in the market. And it's used not just by startups, but also by enterprises. So in the case of IBM, Samsung, Salesforce, and so on. The job graph is very important because you can see in a time span of 7 years, jobs in blockchain have really evolved. So, as I said, it's one of the fastest fastest growing skills in the market. Now, if we talk about rank by number of jobs per programming skill, then the first one would be JavaScript, followed by Solidity, Python, Go, C#, C++, and others. But if we talk about salary, so this is important, salary offers over 150K per year, then we have a bit of a change in the rank. So we have, first is JavaScript, but then we have Go, Golang, Solidity, Python, C#, C++, and others. And then if we rank by the easy to learn factors, the first one is Solidity. So Solidity is the easiest to learn, followed by Python, JavaScript, and the last one would be Golang. I know some of you mentioned that you're very passionate about IoT, so I've added a bit of information regarding blockchain and IoT. So the IDAC 2017 report says that by next year, 20% of all IoT deployments will have basic levels of blockchain services enabled. That means the demand is growing for this industry. But also, IoT apps are by definition distributed, which makes them matchable with blockchain and distributed ledger technology. And also, blockchain is designed as a basis for applications that involve transactions and interactions. Now, the 3 key benefits, and this is from IBM, to use blockchain for IoT. 1, you build trust. 2, you reduce costs. And 3, you accelerate transactions. At the intersection with AI, and I'll be back here, IBM blockchain is already exploring the extension of private blockchains into cognitive IoT. Even now in the Middle East, IBM Watson is looking to collaborate with blockchain startups without any kind of financial interaction for now, but mostly just for developer support. And they're already looking at industries such as healthcare, food industry, and consumer-driven startups. For use cases, I'm not gonna read all of them, but this is just to get a clear idea that blockchain is everywhere, including healthcare, finance and banking, insurance, gaming, and it's a very flexible technology, so it can be used anywhere. In terms of communities, so I think Ethereum is very popular among developers, and there are two Telegram communities that I'm very fond of. One is called ETHKL. It's from Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur is a nest of developers. So you have Etherscan, you have NEM, you have Proxima X that built their headquarters there. But also there's a private one called ETH Asia Group. So Vitalik is also there. We're just about 40 people now. If you'd like to join, more just to talk about really geeky, nerdy stuff, let me know in the break and I can add you, or just text me through Telegram and I'll add you myself. Now moving to AI and machine learning. This is one of my favorite images with the AI tiny Buddha that represents deep learning, and the puppet one, which is machine learning. I have nothing against machine learning. I love it, but it's very basic, and at some point, it can't really address the needs of humanity. So I have a few stats and graphs. AI equity funding since 2012. This is important. In the US alone, in the past 5 years, we've seen 14.9 billion US dollars worth of equity deals. This means that there's a huge interest. I'm not going to go into discussing Asia and China, but I'll just tell you that from my visits and my interactions, Japan and South Korea and China are very interested in especially AI and augmented reality. Now, some of the AI focuses, especially in terms of unicorns, so a unicorn is a company, a startup without an established performance record with a stock market valuation of estimated valuation of more than 1 billion. So I gave you a few examples of unicorns and the type of AI focus that they have. So machine learning based credit risk modeling, deep learning based drug discovery, autonomous vehicles, and so on, just to get an idea of where the industry is heading towards. And a few like the top 100 AI companies. So we have conversational AI, we have bots, we have vision, auto, robotics, cybersecurity, which is very important, sales and CRM, fintech and insurance, healthcare. Healthcare is probably one of the fastest industries that is adopting AI. And also, of course, analytics. Again, going back to my friends from tech.eu, just a few reports with seed and Series A investment in Europe in artificial intelligence in the past 3 years. So we clearly see that there's a growth and there's a lot of interest in terms of funding AI companies. I think it's a serious opportunity for countries such as Greece, Romania. We have really good developers. I'm Romanian. We have really good developers and great talent, and it's about time that we shine a bit in the space. Seed and Series A investment in Europe with machine learning, because it's also important. Again, we've seen a growth, an accelerated growth, especially in the past year and a half. Right now, regarding investments, Greece takes like 0.22% of investments in funding in Europe. Romania takes 0.06 compared to UK that takes 24.2%, I think. So we should get more, right? Percentage of investment made into machine learning out of the total AI investment. This is also important, seed and Series A rounds in Europe. Again, we see that there's a lot of interest. It's important that you guys go, for example, I recommend that you go beyond Greece, you go to events. There's a lot of tech events in Europe. There's Web Summit, there's Tech Chill in Riga in February, there's Slush in Helsinki. These are important tech events where you can network with other people, but you can also talk to investors. And just, if you have an idea, if you want to start your own company, just get a bit of insight from them. And it doesn't cost you that much if you get everything in time. With AI and IoT, again, reports say that by next year, 100% of all effective IoT efforts will be supported by cognitive and AI capabilities. But also, acting as the body to AI's brain, IoT today provides both input, data, and output, action, for the smart computing and analytics function and a centralized AI system. This is from Macy Krantz in Cisco. In terms of application, again, like I said, we see healthcare. Healthcare is a big market, so we've already seen, for example, Microsoft released earlier this year the first AI assistant that helps transcribe doctor's visits. So it takes notes and then delivers the note transcription to the patient and to the doctor. But also we see a computer-aided diagnosis. So there are companies looking to develop AI, to scan the retina and identify any health issues that you have with your eyesight, for example. But also we see it in manufacturing. In, for example, China and Asia, this is big. Manufacturing robots and cobots are very widely used. Smart homes, this is already a thing in Canada and the US, not so much in Europe. But we see smart home devices and AI assistants that can basically make your coffee in the morning. And automotive. Automotive and cars, especially self-driving and electric cars, this is a particular case because it doesn't combine just AI and technology, but also the idea of electric cars. So it adds up to the whole idea of saving the environment, which I think is a cool idea. It's not that practical though when you have traffic, but let's see. And this is important. When we talk about AI and IoT, we're basically talking about IoT plus AI, because the full potential of IoT can only be realized with the introduction of AI. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about during the next presentation. So this is from IBM. Reinventors expanding IoT power by merging with AI. And this is important because you have 4 major categories. So you have the reinventors, 19% of tech people consider themselves reinventors. This means they strategize, plan, and do, and have a high level of current IoT adoption and transformative vision for intelligence IoT. So intelligent IoT combines Internet of Things with artificial intelligence. Then you have 31% tacticians. These are people that just talk, right? So they connect the sensors and have plans, and there's a high level of current AI, IoT adoption, but in transformative vision on AI and machine learning, it's really poor. And then you have aspirationals, 13%, ambitious but struggling to act, basically. And their current IoT adoption level is low. This means they have a transformative future vision for IoT, but they still don't know if they're going to use AI or not. And then you have the observers, which are the majority of people, like 38%, looking from the sidelines. These are people that just wait to see what's happening, and probably at some point, once it's stabilized, they will jump into it. I love the reinventors. I don't like the observers. Observers are like people that just watch and do nothing, but just comment. Now, AI and machine learning as industries, there's an increasing demand for skills. Computer vision, augmented reality, chatbot development. Google recently announced Learn with Google AI. So this gives you an idea of how important the industry is and the skills that are connected to AI. And in terms of industries that use AI, among leading sectors, we have fintech and high tech and communications. So this chart from McKinsey shows you current AI adoption versus future AI demand trajectory. So at the intersection of it, top ranking, we have these two. Possible applications for AI, so this will give you an idea if you want to start your own AI startup. Deep learning, which is kind of boring at some point, you get tired of it, because there's a limit to how much you can use it. Mostly, you're teaching your AI how to process data and interact with the data and draw its own conclusions. It's very academic, so to say. Natural language processing, virtual personal assistant, visualization, audio analytics, graph analytics, image analytics, Internet of Things, robotics, machine learning, social network analysis, simulation modeling, and machine translation. These are possible applications. Now, in terms of likelihood to be used in AI applications, deep learning is somewhere in the middle, right? The likelihood is to use transfer learning and reinforcement learning. These are the trends. So if you're trying to develop the next AI startup, just consider this. And I've pulled out some steps in terms of 12-month AI product roadmap. And this is important because you can't just jump into it without a plan, as any business. You have to really go step by step. So, for example, from month 1 to 2, team, internal candidates vetted, any consultant onboarded, job descriptions completed. Products, strategy planning session with every business unit, generate list of 5-10 potential AI projects, and select 1, 2, 3 AI projects. Then other, review data policies with security. You have to understand that right now AI regulations are very poor as opposed to blockchain regulations. So it's it's uncertain ground. You have to be really careful. For example, if you're building an AI product for Europe, really have to consider GDPR. It's very painful not to consider this in the beginning because it will cost you money and time at some point. And you ideally want to reduce time and financial costs from the very beginning and make sure you are compliant. So just arm yourself with a pack of lawyers that understand the data security requirements in every country, and then just build on it. So this roadmap shows you from month 1 all the way to, let's say, 10 to 12 months. For example, the last part of the year, the last 2 months, for the team, you fill additional AI project roles in engineering, data science, high-performance computing. For products, you productionize first AI product with API access, so sort of like a prototype or MVP. And for other, you can look for annual review, budget planning with key stakeholders. You'll have this in the presentation. I really advise you to look over it. Maybe it will inspire you to launch your own business. Now, skills in demand. I know my presentation is mostly about technical skills, but there are also a lot of soft skills involved. So among the soft skills that are wanted, you'll see, for example, networker, people that do the networking for you at conferences, because unfortunately we can't clone ourselves and be everywhere. Community managers. It's very important because people will not understand the technology you're using or your product unless there's one person that has the human side, right, the emotional intelligence to communicate with them and understand them and explain in basic interactions what you guys are doing. And if you look at it, even with developer communities, there's a strong sense of belonging and purpose. So the basically the mission of a community manager is to create a space for the people and to assign purpose to people. But you also need copywriting, because you need to write down and create articles and content. You need project managers, you need voiceover artists, you need VAs, designers, marketing, business development, and so on. So there's a huge demand, even for the non-technical people. There's a space for everyone. So if you're not that technical, don't worry about it. I mean, you can learn about blockchain in like 3 months if you just sit every day and through self-teaching. Or you can just grab a Python book and learn how to code in Python and understand AI a bit as well. It's not a problem. I think soft skills are very important because this is what brings you closer to people. And for example, public speaking, when you're pitching your startup or your business idea in front of investors, they don't want to hear about the technical side. They really don't give a crap about that. They want to understand the financial side. So how are they going to profit if they invest in you? And they want to understand if you have a demand for that, if you know your consumer. So if you have the customer journey map prepared. They don't care about the technology. It's cool to mention it, but they don't care about the code. So soft skills are important. Now, some of the resources that I recommend, for example, if you want to just develop your community management skills, my community school is not up there yet. It's going to be in a couple of weeks. But you can start with CMX Hub, which is a great source to understand how to build an minimum viable community, MVC, yeah. So you build an MVC canvas, a minimum viable community canvas, and you understand how to map the process and the steps, and how to create a community and create demand for your product. If you want to learn additional skills in development, for example, you can use Coursera, Udacity, edX. There's also Innovation Center Denmark, which is very cool. I got the AI funding, the chart from them. There's also Duomly. Duomly usually is more centered for blockchain. BlockGeeks is a really cool resource if you want to learn more about blockchain and programming languages, and specifically how to code and how to use them. The guys from Carmel, they're doing a really good job, and they're Romanians, so I'm proud of them. But also just start with Google AI. Google AI is more towards machine learning. It's not really pure AI, but it's a good start if you don't have interactions with the skills. And of course, Alison, Linda, Khan Academy, and Ethereum Foundation, they have a lot of courses as well, and grants. So you can basically, if you have a good idea, and you work on developing it, and you can get funding for that. It's basically research in tech. Yeah. And this is how you can contact me. Like I said, if you want to be part of the Telegram group, I think it's a cool opportunity to interact with people who are They're developers, but they also have business experience. So I really advise you. Telegram is Discord is more developer friendly, just because it evolved from the gaming platform. But Telegram is also a good place to interact with people, learn about blockchain, learn about new technologies, interact with businesses and startups. Um, People at conferences, they also have, they use Telegram as, some of them use Telegram as their chat options. So it's a good place for you to be. I know in Europe it's not that popular unless you're from Russia, and because it's now they're kind of banning it in Russia, it's becoming more interesting. But for tech people, it's a good place to be. So I think we have time for questions.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, can we take? Good.
Any questions? No, you are super covered. I see a hand, okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for your talk. My question is a little irrelevant, but is relevant to the blockchain, but not to the AI.
Okay.
The blockchain community, I think, struggles with especially mobile apps because they depend on web apps and claim that they are decentralized. But I don't think so, because you need a third-party browser so you can be decentralized. What's your opinion about that?
About the apps?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that dApps are just a remarketing term for mobile apps. I mean, 100% decentralization cannot be achieved just because we are structured the way we are. To have 100% decentralization, you need a very small group of people. So that means if you have a group of 50 people, let's say 50 consumers, 50 customers use your app, and then you can create it in a way and you can code it in a way that is fully decentralized. But at some point, you'll notice that we, genetically speaking, our interaction, like we could basically have about 1,225 direct, make 1,225 direct connections. And then once we overstep that, like in a group of, let's say, 10, 15 people, then we can't do it by ourselves. So we need kind of like a central authority, right, to do it for us and then spread the information. So that's why I don't think decentralization can be 100% can be possible. But the problem I see right now is we need a lot of platforms, we need a lot of protocols, and we need less dApps. Because we have already, the mobile industry is exploding. It has been exploding for the past 6-7 years. So I think more platforms, because like I said, you're creating a space. People feel really isolated and people feel really disconnected, and it's only getting worse. The more technology you have in your life, the more isolated you become. You look at your phone, you stop talking to people. You watch a movie, you stop going to theater, for example. So then you need platforms and you need spaces where you can connect with one another. And also you'd want to connect worldwide. So let's say time zone and location, gender doesn't become an obstacle in your interaction with other people. So that's why I think, and I know in the blockchain space, we're kind of fed up with dApps because it's just a pretty word and it doesn't really deliver anything. I mean, why would I need a crypto smartphone when I just have my own smartphone? You know, I can just add an additional layer of security. But what I do need is I need better security. I need cyber security because, you know, systems, they are imperfect, they're perfectible, but they are imperfect, so they have vulnerabilities, and that means I'm exposed all the time. It's like I'm running naked in a crowd, and it's not fun. So I would put my bet on security solutions more than developing new applications, the new best thing, the next best thing. I would work on improving what we currently have, because I do think we have a lot of amazing things going on right now.
One last short question?
Yeah.
No? So, before we leave, this is an olive tree from Plant Box from Greece. Thank you very much. And let's go to the coffee break.